Hello, you're watching Niaga AWANI with me, Rozman. And as Malaysia prepares to table budget 2026, all eyes are on how the government will balance fiscal consolidation with economic competitiveness. Corporate Malaysia is under pressure, navigating tight compliance, ESG reporting, digitalizations, and global tax reforms like the OECD's Pillar 2. At the same time, the government is expected to broaden the tax base without stifling growth. Budget 2026 won't just be about numbers. It will signal the government's priorities on how tax policy can shape corporate behavior, drive innovation, and position Malaysia as a competitive hub in ASEAN. Joining us is Tariq Murad, tax partner at PwC Malaysia. Tariq, thank you so much for joining me. Firstly, Budget 2026 will signal the government's fiscal priorities. From a corporate tax perspective, what do you see as the most significant shift compared to previous years?
Good morning, Nina. Firstly, thank you so much for inviting me to this segment. Actually, in the last few years, we have seen several new and expanded measures being introduced by the government to support the government's fiscal needs. And you may recall, these measures includes the plan to implement the global minimum tax for multinationals, the plan for carbon tax to be introduced for selected industries, which is expected to be in place in 2026. Foreign source income was also being brought to tax, and the introduction of capital gains tax on unlisted shares as well as on foreign capital gains. Now, these are measures that have seen introduction in the last few years, and the expectation for it to be in place in the near future. We've also seen, from a tax administrative perspective, a number of measures for self-assessment to be on board. For example, RPGT is already on self-assessment. Soon, stamp duty will be on self-assessment. So, in my mind, Budget 2026 is a good avenue for the government to continue to focus on compliance support, education, and enabling businesses to continue to comply with the new requirements and regulation that has been in place, because there's quite a number of requirements that, like I mentioned, right? And with e-invoice in place, I believe the government will make the necessary refinements to not burden businesses, but to help them to get on board in terms of all these additional requirements.
All right, we know that this is to support and enabling the new compliance for the new requirements. But talking about compliance, many companies are still navigating tight compliance requirements while also dealing with digitalization at the same time, ESG reporting and global tax reform. In your view, how can Budget 2026 strike the right balance between broadening the tax base and ensuring ease of compliance for businesses?
I think the broadening of the tax base with digital guardrails and digital support, coupled with education for the public, not just for the big businesses, but also for the SME and micro SME, can help boost the compliance requirement. I think we got to also take a step back and remember, with the digital enablement of again, I'm going to bring e-invoice as an example. Whilst it actually provide ease for the government to capture and broaden the tax base, from a business perspective, there are positive and support that businesses should look into. For example, with the adoption of e-invoices, the businesses can ensure that the reconciliation of their revenue, monitoring of expenses are in place. And it is also a mechanism for self-policing for the businesses. So the government can just focus on looking at the grey economy, focusing on education, focusing on ease of compliance for the businesses.
There's three important aspects, very important, as you mentioned: education, green economy, and ease of doing business. And talking about this business, how can tax be measured or be designed to influence corporate behavior versus just offering short-term relief?
I think the design of tax incentives or the tax measures, for example, should be, shifted towards reward outcome and not just on cost. Linking the tax support to investment, to productivity, export, talent development in high growth and high value sector, so that businesses can focus on create quality jobs, move up the value chain to benefit more and more opportunity for greater development of businesses. Encourage digital adoption, the use of AI, and green transitions with targeted allowances and special deduction for businesses to adopt this technology, adopt green efficiency and sustainable supply chain, and then also make the incentive time bound and performance linked, so that behaviors of businesses can be shifted and directed towards the intended outcome of the government.
Intended outcome of the government, and talking about given your involvement with the public sector, how do you view the government's approach towards public sector linked companies? Does it encourage greater efficiency, or is there still reliance on fiscal support?
I think the approach that we've seen so far is moving towards efficiency on its impact. I think the governance as well as strengthening transparency as well as performance. I think through the Gear Up program, the GLICs are mobilizing capital on high growth sectors, as well as advancing wage reforms, and then setting examples for businesses on the private sectors to also get on board, right? So I think it is a good step that rather than reliance on fiscal support, government-linked companies can also be the champion in terms of advancing greater reforms and governance. Potentially, I think the adoption of tax corporate governance frameworks by government-linked company is highly encouraged, and then this can also give a cascading impact to other businesses that work and collaborate with government-linked companies.
Tariq, before we end, how would you sum up the corporate tax wish list for the upcoming budget?
I think in my mind, in terms of the wish list for budget 2026 is, perhaps a bold positioning that the country can take in terms of setting its roadmap to relook at the statutory corporate tax rate to be more competitive. Whilst we don't expect an immediate jerk in terms of the setting of the tax rate, but I think perhaps setting a roadmap on how the corporate tax rate can be set at a more competitive rate. The other perspective is that I would also hope that the government can use budget 2026 to streamline and make easy the compliance requirement for businesses, and as well as targeted support on the adoption of green technology, on AI and digital adoption for businesses.
As you mentioned, for wish list for tax, bold, set a stronger roadmap and streamline all the compliance requirements. And we also hope the best for the upcoming budget 2026. And I want to say thank you very much to our guest, Tariq Murad, tax partner PwC Malaysia, for helping us understand what is to be expected for the corporate tax announcement on D-Day. And stay tuned with us as we'll bring more updates on Belanjawan 2026. Baik, pembangunan dan penambahbaikan sekolah luar bandar dan daif wajar menjadi keutamaan dalam Belanjawan 2026. Menerusi tinjauan suara anda, suara Malaysia 34.66% daripada 170 responden memilih supaya keutamaan diletakkan kepada pembangunan sekolah luar bandar dan daif. Sementara itu, 25% responden memilih digitalisasi pengajaran dan pembelajaran serta sekolah sebagai keutamaan dalam sektor pendidikan. Manakala 24.43% responden cenderung kepada kemahiran dan latihan TVET, sementara 15.91% memilih yuran universiti. Astro AWANI membuka ruang kepada rakyat Malaysia untuk bersuara dan berkongsi pandangan menjelang pembentangan Belanjawan 2026. Soalan baru akan dikemas kini setiap 2 hari sehinggalah menjelang sehari sebelum Belanjawan 2026 yang akan dibentangkan Perdana Menteri merangkap Menteri Kewangan Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim pada 10 Oktober nanti.
Menjelang Belanjawan 2026, Astro AWANI membuka ruang kepada rakyat Malaysia untuk bersuara dan berkongsi pandangan. Soalan hari ini adalah, peruntukan sektor kesihatan perlu mengutamakan? 4 pilihan jawapan diberikan. Imbas kod QR yang tertera untuk menjawab. Suara anda penting dalam membentuk masa depan Malaysia. Sertai sekarang dan jadilah sebahagian daripada wacana nasional. Suara anda, suara Malaysia. Menjelang Belanjawan.
ASEAN is accelerating into a digital future and Malaysia doesn't plan to sit on the sidelines. With technologies like AI, trusted data and green energy becoming the backbone of new economies, Malaysia is now one of the first in the region to join the World Economic Forum Centre for the 4th Industrial Revolution Network. Through My Digital Corporation and My Centre for IR, Malaysia isn't just talking policy, it's testing, implementing and measuring real impact. From AI and data frameworks to hydrogen pilots and ESG innovation challenges, Malaysia is building an ecosystem that's not only relevant for the country, but for the entire ASEAN region. Joining us on set is Kelvin Wu, Director of My Centre for IR. I want to say thank you very much for joining me. Kelvin, firstly, can you share with us, how does My Digital Corporation frame Malaysia's digital ecosystem?
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks so much for the question. My Digital Corporation plays a very important role in coordinating the collaboration with the different ministries and also different government agencies, and most importantly, creating a multi-stakeholder cooperation platform to drive our digital economy ecosystem forward. We were set up in 2021 and we are an agency with the Ministry of Digital with a mandate to oversee the implementation of the Malaysia Digital Economy Blueprint and the National 4IR Policy. And these two key policies are guiding documents and also the spirit behind our digital economy development. And this is where My Digital Corporation plays that role in coordinating with the different government ministries and also different government agencies to achieve those aspirations.
And talking about different multiple agencies and support, we can see that how does My Centre for IR ensure multi-agency alignment for a cohesive national 4IR strategies, because we know that every agency have their own aim and prospect?
And you point out really rightly, and as you have rightly mentioned, the Malaysia Centre for the 4th Industrial Revolution is the first centre that we have here in Southeast Asia, and we are part of the global network of C4IR globally through the World Economic Forum. And how Malaysia Centre for the 4th Industrial Revolution comes in is to create a shared vision and a common vision among the different stakeholders, and also the alignment of the different vision as well. And for example, some of the initiatives that we have, one of the flagship initiatives that we are working in close collaboration with the World Economic Forum is the Transitioning Industrial Cluster. It is a framework that was developed by the World Economic Forum to gather companies who are co-located in a geolocation to agree on 3 goals, to agree on their collective GDP contribution, the job creation, and also carbon emission reduction through partnership, integration of new technology, different financing mechanism, and also, most importantly, partnership. And this is where the Malaysia Centre for the 4th Industrial Revolution create a neutral platform where we strategically convene the different stakeholders with overlapping interests to work towards that common vision. And currently, we will be establishing a TIC cluster in Bintulu, Sarawak, where we have gathered over 19 stakeholders from government, from industry, from academia as well, to work towards that shared vision. That's very important. The key of it is to build that shared vision.
And to achieve that common vision comes with a lot of responsibility, commitment. And how is Malaysia positioning itself as the first mover in ASEAN to the WEF Center for 4IR network?
Yes. So I think for Malaysia, given that we are the first center in Southeast Asia, and also in conjunction with our ASEAN chairmanship this year, we are in a very unique position to be able to shape that narrative. So the Center for IR, we played an important role in bridging the international resources to translate it for national benefit and also national impact, but in addition to that, also regional impact as well. One of the initiatives that the Malaysia Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution has been working on is the development of the ASEAN AI Safety Network, which is one of the priority economic deliverables for Malaysia this year. And this is where the C4IR plays an instrumental role in one, translating the framework from the global discourse on AI governance and also AI development, and translating it and contextualizing it to the regional and also Malaysian context. And this is where we will have more information to be shared at the ASEAN Leaders Summit.
All right, so we have another discussion interview when you have that information. Yes. Going to regional, can you describe how cross-border collaborations in digital transformation, energy transition can advance regional cooperations?
Digital transformation and energy transition are two really great endeavors that we cannot achieve on our own. It requires good coordination, good governance, and most importantly, strategic partnership across different sectors and also different stakeholders. And this is where Malaysia Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, we played that role in convening leaders from the different regions. Last May, we had the pleasure of co-hosting the energy transition meeting in ASEAN together with the World Economic Forum, where we convened leaders from government leaders, industry leaders from Malaysia and also from Southeast Asia to collaborate and also to discuss about the future of energy transition here in Malaysia. And we also discussed about the convergence of AI and energy at that meeting as well. And in addition to that, on the sideline of the ASEAN Leaders Summit this year, we will be co-hosting a summit called the Powering the Intelligent Age Summit together with the World Economic Forum, where we will be convening the leaders from the region to discuss on a few themes on AI, on energy transition, specifically looking into ASEAN Power Grid, looking into future of nuclear energy, looking into the intersection of AI and energy, and also the development of the transitioning industrial cluster in Malaysia.
There's quite a lot of focus, to be honest, to start with. And how does my Center for IR especially connect the policy, the data trust, hydrogen and green tech to practical to actionable pilots? And how do you ensure all of this can be enhanced or achieved within the targeted time frame?
Yes. So again, it's not the sole responsibility of one party, and the center plays an important role in connecting the dots between the different sectors. And this is where we have different initiatives. For example, the Malaysia ESG Innovation Challenge, where we work together with Bersama Malaysia, Cradle Fund, and together with the World Economic Forum Uplink platform, and also alongside with 5 corporate partners in the implementation of digital tools in ESG reporting processes. And for the for example, the development of the transitioning industrial cluster as well. And this is where we translate the action points from, for example, from our national policy, from MPEB, from the National 4IR policy, from the National Energy Transition Roadmap into small pilot projects within the industrial cluster, where we look into small-scale projects that eventually will be able to scale in Malaysia and also in the region.
And my Center for IR, especially, we want to understand how do you guys measure the impact of all of this initiative? Because we know that measurement for each of this initiative is different.
Correct. So I think overall, the overarching top-line contribution that we are looking at is the contribution to our national GDP and also to job creation and also carbon emission reduction as well. And how we get there, it can take in different shape and form, but that is the common vision and also the common yardstick that we are looking at in our initiative measurements.
And share with us, what's your long-term vision for this?
So I think in the longer term, for us in the development of these initiatives is that we want to be able to contribute to and translate all of these policies into actionable economic and also social and positive environmental impact in Malaysia by through the different engagement of stakeholders from in Malaysia and also from the region to start thinking about where can we position Malaysia moving forward. Two, what are some of the issues that we need to address on the ground in order for us to increase adoption of new technology that will translate into positive impact on the ground. So in the longer term, we do foresee ourselves as that multi-stakeholder platform where we continuously engage and convene the different stakeholders to work towards that common aspiration and vision.
Law question, moving forward, talking about the future outlook for My Centre for IR, how does My Centre for IR plan to expand knowledge, toolkits and framework so we can maximize the regional impact?
That's a very good question. So for a lot of the work that we do, we also draw a lot of insights and a lot of learning. And not only learnings within the country, but also across the network from the World Economic Forum as well. And this is where we have different publications to capture and to codify those learnings. And then we use those, and for us, our ethos is that we would not want to have publications that sits in the archive, but we will want to continuously engage the different stakeholders with the publications that we have that is used to inform in policy making or in business decision. So this is where we will have the different publications through our online platform and also through the different other platforms that we have. But most importantly, I think through the cross-border collaboration that we have. And I can share with you a few examples. Very recently, we worked with our counterparts from the C4IR in India to have a conversation on integrating artificial intelligence for agriculture innovation, where we are looking into how can we use and leverage AI to help farmers to increase their crop yield. And this is where we have the different toolkit, engaging with the policymaker to equip them with the tools and also the thinking and the mindset shift in how digital technologies like AI can be used to transform a sector like in agriculture.
This is very exciting. We still have a long journey to go, and I will say thank you very much to Calvin Wu, Director of My Centre for IR. This is a very proud achievement as Malaysia has joined the Global 4IR, and definitely for helping us understand how the landscape is going to be for digital transformation in Malaysia. Again, I will say thank you very much and hope to see you again in the future. All right, definitely all of our discussion here will be featured in astro.com across all social media platforms. All right, next update is Mimos Berhad celebrate 40 years at MTP 2025, shifting from a research institute to accelerator of market-ready technologies. How can SME, startups and industry tap into innovations like Riva and Spectra to power up their businesses? Catch full discussions with Mimos CEO Dr. Saad Shukri Embau and CTO Dr. Paniselvam Kanagaratnam with my colleague Nabilah Khaleeda right after this break.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Cara kita mendapat berita kian berubah. Melalui media sosial maupun saluran digital yang lain serta kaca TV. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini.
Kita buat sesuatu yang berbeza.
Berteraskan acuan verifikasi yang diamalkan supaya setiap fakta adalah sahih. Daripada analisis pelbagai sudut yang mendalam, laporan-laporan khas dan perbincangan yang membina negara. Inklusif, suara rakyat kami ajukan. Keseimbangan persepsi kami pastikan. Kerana setiap cerita mempunyai impak yang tersendiri dan perlu dibawa dengan penelitian yang terperinci. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada. Saluran berita paling dipercayai di Malaysia.
Hello and thank you for tuning in to AWANI with me, Nabilah, Khaleeda. Right now we're broadcasting live from IOI Grand Exhibition and Convention Center in Putrajaya for MIMOS Technology Preview 2025 or MTP 2025. And the theme this year is a bold one: power up your business with market-ready tech and unrivaled partnership. So it's also a historic year for MIMOS Berhad, Malaysia's National Applied Research and Development Center or R&D, as it marks its 40th anniversary. So from its beginnings as a research institute, MIMOS is now accelerating the nation's transition into high-tech, knowledge-based economy. So joining me today are two key leaders of MIMOS, but I'll start off with Dr. Sani, the President, also Group Chief Executive Officer of MIMOS Berhad. Assalamualaikum, selamat pagi. Okay. All right. Thank you for joining me in AWANI this morning. Perhaps we could start with the theme of MTP this year, which is bold and also ambitious. So what does it really signal about MIMOS' shift from a research institute to becoming an accelerator for Malaysia's economic transition as a whole, please?
Terima kasih. MIMOS Technology Preview 2025 ialah satu platform whereby actually we brings everybody together from the innovation and the business ecosystem, which actually the theme itself signal the major transition in MIMOS activities and role, whereby in the past we mostly focus on the technology development alone, and today we are looking at accelerating the adoption of the technology by the industry and the marketplace, whereby we want to actually diffuse and introduce all our innovation to the world for the benefits of the people and the humankind. And for this, actually, we bring all the people, either from the government as regulator, the policymakers, the entrepreneur, the researcher, innovators, as well as the users, to come together to collaboratively work together to make this happen for Malaysia.
So MIMOS has reached a new milestone. It celebrates the 40th anniversary this year.
Yeah.
So how has the organization has evolved across decades, and also how has it aligned itself with today's urgent national needs right now in technology?
Okay, it's a very long journey and very interesting one, and actually we've been evolved from a center that previously mainly focused on developing microelectronics technologies, actually to leverage the spillover effect from our previous days FDIs, and change to the accelerator of the technology adoption and also the industrialization of Malaysia through our innovation and technology division. So over these years, actually we've been developing many of Malaysian first. For example, as I mentioned earlier, back in 1991, actually we produced the first Malaysian microprocessor called Persona. And we also actually one of the first actually that brought internet to Malaysia. As we know, jaring in the past, and many others. For example, the security chip, the EPROM, we brought in the security system, which actually later on a spin-off to become the cybersecurity in Malaysia, and actually we developing the My Domain for Malaysia, that later on spin-off become MyNIC today, the MSC Malaysia, and many others. And today we looking at beyond what we would be able to achieve in the past, because we realize many of the developed and advanced economy rely heavily on technology. Yes. Technology actually driven the country economy, and we want to be the key player to actually accelerate that, and most importantly to be recognized as one of the movers in this particular region, and actually for the benefit of the world.
So looking at the technological advancements that's moving so fast and also complex right now, I think it's a must transitioning from R&D and also towards a accelerator for the national needs. So looking at the big highlight of MTP 2025, which is the idea of unrivaled partnership. Yeah. So we hear about the quadruple helix, the government, industry, the academia, and also society working together at the same time. So why is this comprehensive model of collaboration so important and also critical for Malaysia's innovations to be globally commercialized?
Traditionally, actually, the researchers tend to actually envision something and quickly develop the technology because they believe that the technology is unique and something that people would need. Although it's true in many cases, but actually the innovation requires cohesive collaboration among all the players, the regulator, the policymakers, the innovators, the researchers, because actually we need to make sure all this technology fits into the whole aspiration, the requirement of the market, the intent or the needs of the users. And actually we want to do this early when we start developing the ideas, slowly develop the technology and transforming that technology into the solution that be acceptable in the marketplace and meeting all the requirement and the global standards. Because we want to make sure that whatever we produce, industry can easily pick it up and move directly to the business and create mutual benefits for everyone, either from the business point of view, the economy, and other benefits.
So through this MTV 2025, how do you hope from this exhibition can actually move or fosters this collaboration forward?
We hope more people to join us and previously we actually have a quite number of people that are working together with us. Today we actually inviting everybody, inviting them to work closely with us to co-create a new Malaysia based on technology, so that we no longer become the consumer or the trader of technology, but we also the creator and innovator of those technology, making Malaysia more sovereign in terms of technology. And this will actually benefit more people, and more people will come to collaborate further with us.
Who or what are some of the key shareholders that is working closely together to actually empower this whole ambition?
It starts with our market study. Actually, we do a lot of market validation and give those input to the policymakers, like ministry, our ministry, and also the agencies. They produce the policy, and from there, actually, we work with the industry to fine-tune the requirement and the needs of the solution, so that it will satisfy the the issues of the challenges at the marketplace. And the other people that would really need this technology are the entrepreneurs or the technopreneurs of Malaysia. I mean, we know that technology is something that and quite challenging, and we must provide all these platform and facilities to enable everyone to come together. And we hope with all these funding agency coming together, the ministry, the agency, the people, the entrepreneur and researchers, we would actually make that happen.
What could be the specific strategies that we can ensure a smooth transition from being an R&D to become the accelerator?
We do an early engagement. That's the most important thing. Actually, we need to make sure whatever we develop is in line with the government aspiration within our introduced policy and existing framework. And the product actually meet the industry requirement. Actually, it satisfies the situational environment or the requirement of the world, the standards and etc. And the cost actually is below what the customer willing to pay, to make sure that everybody will make profit of it. And actually the most important thing, actually the process to transition from R&D lab to the marketplace, because actually it needs a major shift in terms of talent, knowledge, and etc. Actually, we also work together with the industry to develop these talents with the universities, to make sure that when the technology goes to the market, they have sufficient support, not just from the facility, the shared facilities, but also from the engineers, researchers, from the new talent, and also other elements to support the advancement of those technologies to go to the market and grow for the future.
All right, thank you, Dr. Saad, for sharing your insight, also time when it comes to MIMO's journey and its role in driving Malaysia's technology future. Now, let's shift focus to the technology itself, but for now, we'll go for a short break first. We'll be right back.
Ada yang perdebatan bahawa GST perlu dikembalikan semula kerana ada yang mempertikaikan bahawa SST itu tidak efektif.
Isu buruh kanak-kanak bukan sahaja dalam bentuk fizikal tetapi juga bentuk moden yang lebih licik dan juga terselindung.
Kita tengok buruh kanak-kanak dan ada juga buruh paksa kanak-kanak.
Kumpulan FB dikenali sebagai grup budak-budak sekolah rendah yang didakwa menyebarkan gambar remaja perempuan tidak senonoh telah pun ditutup.
Alright, welcome back to AWANI. I'm still broadcasting live here at MTP 2025, IOI Grand Exhibition and Convention Centre, Putrajaya. And we now see many innovations in the pipeline, from health sensors to AI-driven solutions. So we want to know, how does MIMOS actually decide what's ready for the market? So for that, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Pannaselvam Kanagaratnam, Chief Technology Officer of MIMOS Berhad. Good morning. Thank you for joining here with me on AWANI this morning. So to start, Dr. Parnil, let's go to the lab. Let's start with the lab.
Okay.
With so many R&D ideas being explored, we see how do you think we will decide which ones to get the green light to move forward? And for example, solutions like non-invasive health sensors. What do you think about that?
Okay. So MIMOS takes a whole of organization approach when it comes to commercializing what tech to do first. So the green lighting doesn't start at the lab itself. We have what we call MBIC, a MIMOS Business Investment Council. So even though it's R&D budget, our stakeholders are expecting whatever technology we develop benefits the industry, benefits the government. So what we do is, at this council, we have the technology development team, we have the business team, the strategy team. We all discuss and look at the projects, and we all do our homework. Okay, we go to the industry, we go on the ground, we also do our desktop research, and we try to find out what is it that is the pain points in the industry, what is the immediate need of the governments, and even the long term, because we go on the 5-year cycle, RMK12, RMK13, that's how the government funds us. So before even we start the projects, we go and do all this groundwork. We talk to industries, we talk to government officials, we try to see what is their pain points, and we develop all these technologies based on that. So the green light that comes from the lab is, when we work in the industries, they actually provide us the space. They provide us the test ground. And we go and test our devices, our equipment, like the non-intrusive glucose sensor. We work with the medical associations, we work with the hospitals. We go and try there, and we do the measurements, and we compare it with other technologies that are there, or even for example, the blood glucose. You have to prick your finger, right? A lot of people don't want to do that. But we get the ground truth data from that, okay? And then we compare with our measurements. So when we see there's a strong correlation, then we know that our technology is ready. And it's the same with our palm oil technology. We work with the SIMDABs, we work with the FGVs, we go on the ground, we do the experiments on the ground with them, and we see whether this technology is suitable for them. And when we get the buy-in from them, that's when we say, okay, this is now ready to get into the market, and we do all the needful to make it successful.
But with all these efforts, with the collaboration of all different sectors, the talent are the key drivers. So how can we bring them forward?
Okay, so we have a very strong internship program. Okay, MIMOS itself, we attract a lot of universities especially. Many of them do their internships at MIMOS. We also have what is called a MIMOS Academy. We have formed that, and that is where we provide training ground in areas of AI, semiconductor, IoT. These are all the buzzwords now, okay? And we provide all this training for, because when the PM came to MIMOS, he said, 5 years he wants 60,000 talents in engineering, right? Because end of the day, if you want to become a high-income nation, technology is the way to go. Our A&E exports are going at 500 billion. It's the largest export. It's all tech-based. And MIMOS being the lead agency in this E&E sector, so we have a responsibility as well to develop the talent in this field. And we have a lot of programs with the industries to develop the innovation, entrepreneurship. And now our CEO has instituted JV course. He wants 700. We have 700 staff. He wants 700 entrepreneurs to come out of MIMOS, okay, to drive, because we don't want the tech to just sit in the lab. We want it to be out there, to be diffused in the market.
That's a good initiative, especially when we want to become a high growth, high value nation.
Yes.
But when we talk about what's proven in the lab, there's often a commercialization gap. So where great ideas struggle to become successful products. So how does MIMOS bridge that gap that we have right now, the commercialization gap? And perhaps you can share examples like Reva and also in Spectra.
Okay, so we have 30 over technologies. So it's mandatory that even before we start the program, we work with the industry. Like I mentioned, even to address the pain points, we work with the industry. So along even the development, the industry is there. Okay, so this ensures that when the technology is completed, the industry gets the market. So a lot of people do their development, a lot of research institutes do their development without the engagement of the industry. So that's why we see this, what they call the valley of death, basically. And they already do the technology development, but there are no takers at the end of the day. But we are addressing this gap by getting the industry involved from the get-go to work with us and refine the requirements of the technology so that there's a market fit. So the technology that we develop fits what the market needs. And this is how we have been doing it. And the funding is there for us to do all these POCs. We go to many different industry segments. For example, like I mentioned, the palm oil. And then we also are working the energy efficiency domain. So one of the companies that we have worked with, it was a startup, a small startup 3 years ago. It was just a few $100,000 company, but then we worked with them, we developed the technology, entered the market. Now with the ESG and all, energy efficiency is a big thing. So now they are pulling in millions of dollars per year now, thanks to working with us from the get-go. So this is how we've been addressing the gaps in the market.
That's on commercialization. What could be the other challenges that could be stopping or perhaps be the barrier when it comes to transitioning from R&D and also market lab?
Okay, so usually it's the budget because when we produce all these technologies, we want the company that takes up the technology to also be a technology company because we don't have the bandwidth to support. We have got 30 over technologies that we have produced over RMK12 and we are moving into RMK13. So we can't be putting all our energy and effort into maintaining and supporting this technology. So what we need are industry players that are tech savvy. And they also, sometimes when they're not so tech savvy also, they do all the talent development to get all the engineers, and we work with them to develop all their capabilities so that when the product goes to them, they are able to support the product independently from us, or minimal, because when we pass over the technology, we pass everything over, the IPs, the design and all that, so that they can also do the continuous improvement on the product, and that helps them. So that is key, to work with them from the beginning, and also the funding. Okay, and we also we have the funding agencies. Some of them are here. They help with the commercialization aspects of it because it's a very costly. Dr. Shukri just now mentioned we go to TRL 6, but the 7 to 9 you have to go and certify at CRIM and other regulatory bodies for medical devices. It's a very lengthy process. It takes more than a year to do that. Very expensive as well. We have to do hundreds of trials. So all this is very costly, very costly, and so budget is required. And what we have financial institutions as well at our MTP to help all our SMEs and small industries to adapt technology. Technology is not cheap, but money is key.
You've touched on that, which brings me to my next question, where MTP actually is important for smaller businesses. So what tangible support mechanisms are available for small, medium enterprises and also startups so they can actually adopt this advanced market-ready technologies that is more easily?
So we try to provide the services and infrastructure as well for them to succeed, because the design tools, the simulation tools to do technology is all very expensive. For example, we have the DDTM program, Digitized Design to Manufacturing, where we provide the SolidWorks tools, which is a very expensive tool that can't be afforded by our SMEs. But every year we provide 30 to 50 licenses to these industries for them to be able to use and do their product development. It's same with other tools. IC design tool is millions worth millions of dollars. And it's not, startups can't afford this type of investment into projects. So MIMOS provide that. MIMOS also has the talents and the consultants to help the industries to get all this necessary support so that they can be successful when it comes to marketing and also delivering on their products. And on top of that, MIMOS, of course, has got a lot of IPs. So the IPs, there are many business models, so they can discuss with our commercial team on what is best for them. Not everybody can purchase the IP outright. Maybe we do equity sharing or some partnerships, and then we share the profits. There are a lot of different models to help them get started first, and then later they can repay us back through the taxes and whatnot.
Do you have specific numbers of startups or SMEs that you wish to help through this MTP?
We are targeting as many as possible. So I heard as of last night we had close to 1,000 registrations, and a lot of people, I hope, even without informing us, they'll be showing up. They told me they have not registered. So we are expecting all of them to see something that sparks their ideas. Oh, that's all. Every time visitors come to MIMOS, they look at all our outputs and their minds are already saying, oh, it can go to this sector, it can go to this sector. Oh, I've got opportunities in this particular segment. So things that we don't see, other people may be able to see. And being a government-funded project, there's no exclusivity to any particular SME or company. So we can give it to anybody who comes in and I see an opportunity.
Yeah. What are some of the highlights and also offerings that we have here at MTP? I've seen booths inside, so how much there?
So we have, I think, many different sectors. I think about 5 or 6. We have smart manufacturing technologies. We have energy efficiency technologies. We have medical devices technologies. We have traceability technology. In fact, the My Digital ID that's now being rolled out was developed at MIMOS. That's a government initiative. So like that, we have even for smart lockups to see behaviors of prisoners and all that. Even for a smart workplace to see whether people are wearing their helmets, whether they're wearing all their safety gears. We have, like I mentioned just now, the energy efficiency to manage cooling in the building because in buildings, air conditioning is the highest consumer of electricity. We can get about 20 to 30% savings on that. So there's a lot of, later we can go in and see all the different offerings that we have cutting across many different sectors and segments. But our key thing in MIMOS, our research areas are in semiconductor, electronics, which means product-based, as well as ICT, where the blockchains, the cybersecurity, the AI all resides. So we are quite cross-cutting across the tech space.
That's a lot of insight. Also, there's a lot of offerings for those joining MTP 2025. So perhaps in about 1 minute, perhaps you can share what are your hopes and aspirations through this MTP Technology Preview 2025, please.
Okay, so the MTP is, as you can see at the back, is market-ready tech products. So we are inviting all our Malaysian industries, even if they're not here at MTP, to get in touch with us, to look at the technology offerings that we have, and to take up and diffuse it, because at the end of the day, the country is trying to become a high-income nation, and our Prime Minister sees technology as the way, and MIMOS being one of the few technology developing institutions, this is your opportunity. Take advantage of us, and please come and make use of all the facilities as well as the tech offerings that we have to enhance and grow this country.
And with that, I would like to say thank you so much, Dr. Farni, for your insights and for your time that you spent with me just now. And as Malaysia looks forward, the mission is clear. We see that turning research into real-world impact. So from cutting-edge innovations to stronger partnerships, MIMOS is positioning itself not just as a research hub, but as an accelerator of Malaysia's tech-driven economy. So that's all from AWANI at MTP 2025. I'm Nabilah Khaleeda. Thank you for joining us. And stay tuned for more sharings and also coverage right here on AWANI.
Saya perlukan gold card. Cik Puan Sarima telah memilih Order.
6 finalis berjaya mara ke peringkat akhir.
Tahniah. Manager tahniah, matang di atas pentas.
You are on top. Saya boleh lihat kerja keras manager.
Bukan sahaja bakat dinilai, tips dari manager memainkan peranan. Namun pasangan manakah yang akan berjaya? Konsert akhir Talk to My Manager 9 malam di Astro Ria dan Astro Go.
Thanks for joining us. This is The Economy with me, Ibrahim, Sani. I'm currently at the sidelines of the World Trade Center here in Kuala Lumpur, attending the 46th General Assembly of the ASEAN Interparliamentary Assembly, or AIPA. This is in conjunction with the all-round ASEAN conferences that is taking place throughout the year. With me today in this show are two members of parliaments of Ukraine, a good friend of Malaysia, of course. On my left is Nabilah Tashiva. She is a member of Parliament of Ukraine. She's also the head of the subcommittee on the restoration of state authority and local self-government. And she's also a member of the Committee of the Organization of State of Power, Local Government, Regional Development and Urban Planning. And to her left is Alexander Mareshko, the chairman of the Committee of the Foreign Affairs and Interparliamentary Ties of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. He's also a member of Parliament, a servant of the people there. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. We have covered a few leaders of Ukraine over the past few years, especially after the Russian aggression has started. And we also like to take this opportunity to express our thanks to members of the Ukrainian delegates to come over and have a discussion with us, not just on the recent developments of your country, but of course how we can strengthen the ties between Ukraine and ASEAN and of course of Malaysia. Maybe we can start off with Nabilah first. Being a member of the Tatar background, how does this play in terms of your relationship with the role that you carry right now as the head of the committee or member of the committee of the local self-government and power, and what kind of lessons and takings can you get from attending this conference in the ASEAN Interparliamentary Conference here in KL?
First of all, thank you for inviting. It's for us an honor to be presented here in Kuala Lumpur and in your TV show. You absolutely correctly say that I'm Crimean Tatar. I'm from a small Muslim community in Ukraine, originally from Crimea, which is unfortunately occupied in 2014 by Russia, and all this aggression started in 2014, even not in 2020. And unfortunately my community start to leave a region in Crimea to different another countries, third countries, and of course to mainland of Ukraine. And that is why we start different actions, activities around our ethnical minority. And actually we have a lot of ties between Malaysia and Eastern Asia countries, actually, because you have also here a lot of Muslims who live here historically, and Islam, for example, in Ukraine, in Crimea precisely, was from 13th century. We have a lot of mosques in our region, and that is why when we communicate with our partners and allies from this region, they really understand us when we explain that Ukraine is support our minorities, that we support our Muslim community in Ukraine. For example, my President Zelensky, he during a few years adopted different very important documents on the level of the president with supporting of ethnical minorities in Ukraine and religious communities in Ukraine. He, for example, organized iftars for Muslim community, and he pray and eat during Ramadan time with the soldiers who are also from Muslim community. And that is why we think that we, as a Ukraine, we very tolerant country we support all these minorities and different communities.
What about the process of, say, for instance, higher education? We've seen a lot of Muslim students from Crimea also would like to extend their studies here in Malaysia. Do you think that that would be an angle to further deepen as well?
Absolutely, it's very important. And actually, last year, our First Lady Olena Zelensky, she established a global coalition of Ukrainian studies, because it's very important to explain and to understand Ukraine through the Ukrainian lens. Because during many years, Ukraine was explained by, for example, Slavic studies, Eastern European studies, but not Ukrainian studies. That is why our First Lady, she established such kind Ukrainian studies, and we hope, of course, that in Malaysia, Indonesia, and in all region, we could open such kind studies for Ukraine with Ukrainian language, or, for example, language of indigenous people, such as Crimean Tatars, for example. And we have some different discussions with our partners from this region, and we hope that in nearest future we opened such kind courses or classes with the studying of history of Ukraine and Crimean Tatars, indigenous study. I think it's important to our communication and connection between our countries.
We'll take a pause from that. Let's move on to Alexander. Lest we forget, there is still a war that is ongoing. Maybe you can brief us or bring up to date in terms of the situation there, and how does this play in terms of how you are bringing that message across to the delegates here attending this ASEAN meeting?
Yeah, it's been for more than 3 years, 3.5, even more years of the full-scale Russian aggression. But the war had started in the year 2014, so it's been 11 years of the war, brutal war waged by Russia against Ukraine. Of course, the situation is difficult because Russia has huge resources, manpower, and lots of weaponry, and it's supported by such countries as, for example, North Korea or Iran, and economically by China. So we're dealing with a huge coalition of countries fighting against Ukraine and supporting Russia. But for me, first of all, it's a matter of international law, because I'm an international lawyer. It's about kind of concern for each country, including Malaysia. We're talking about such sacred principles of international law as principle of sovereignty, respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, non-use of force in international relations. And no matter how difficult it is for us now, we know that we are fighting for global security, we are fighting for peace in the world, and we are fighting for international law. And I hope that we can rely also on support of your country in this regard.
And of course, Malaysia as well as ASEAN wants to see better resolution in terms of coming up from this. For both of you, what has been the reception been like, considering that you are now speaking to a few delegates here, not just from ASEAN, but across the world? The kind of support or the kind of explicit, I guess, notion that they are expressing. Are you, I guess, satisfied with the kind of responses, or do you want countries to do a little bit more in terms of finding a more peaceful resolution from this war?
There are different kinds of support, first of all. We need, for example, military assistance, because Russia each day, each night, bombards, shells Ukrainian cities, including Ukrainian capital. Virtually each day we have civilian casualties, and it's natural that we need, first of all, weapons. We need air defense systems to protect our civilian population. And we understand that different countries can provide different kinds of support. It might be diplomatic support when a country is voting at the General Assembly of the UN in support in favor of territorial integrity of Ukraine or against Russian aggression. It's also it's immensely important diplomatic support. We need economic support political support, because Russia has destroyed a huge chunk of our economy and continues to kill us, to destroy us. That's why each country, including, of course, Malaysia, can do something important, can support us politically. Even when you raise this issue in your TV program, it's incredibly important because you make people living in Malaysia aware of what's going on. You're telling them the truth. It's important for us because we rely on truth and on international law.
Malaysia might not be too familiar with the current ongoing right now day to day, but prior to doing this interview, I asked many of my colleagues about the situation in Ukraine, whether or not they're familiar. They are, but not to that extent or detail. But what they are familiar is President Zelensky's visit to the White House, now twice. The first one was as bizarre as it gets, I presume, even for Ukrainian delegates as well. But the second one seems to be a little bit more cordial and seems to see some form of progress. Do you seek more support from the US, or is it time for us to talk about trying to galvanize support from elsewhere across the world, including that of ASEAN? Maybe Tamia.
Yes, thank you. I also answer for your first question. Actually, we really absolutely support and really appreciate for all support from this region and from Malaysia also, of course, and for all resolution which is supported by Malaysia and ASEAN countries. It's important for Ukraine. We always follow all the situation and all these votings from your region. It's important for us because now we try to communicate more than we do it in the past with the region. And we, for example, we now open our embassy in the Philippines. It's also important for the region because we have in Malaysia, in Indonesia, now we have in Philippines, before we have in Thailand, of course, our representatives. Of course, also important to thinking about what has happened after a war, actually. And we interested to cooperate in economical sphere, and especially when we say about Malaysia, about medical sphere. For example, we have you have in Malaysia really very strong this sphere of economy, and we really interested for that. Of course, from our side, we also interested to about all these agricultural issues. Unfortunately, because of a war, because Russia control Sea of Black Sea and these ports, which is now closed, they use it for blocked our grain corridor. We deblocked it somehow because we destroyed one half part of Russian Black Sea fleet, but even now it's very complicated. And if I answer for your question about our cooperation and support from United States, we really appreciate from United States that they support us from very beginning, from 2014, of our territorial integrity and sovereignty, and of course they give us military support, financial support. Now we have some complicated issue with the military support, but now we are waiting for another packages of military support, and especially it's important air defense system for Patriots, because you see how in Ukraine now all these missile attacks against our civil infrastructure, and it's really complicated in autumn and in winter, because they destroyed electrical this infrastructure for Ukraine, and it's for all our people it's a very difficult situation. Of course, now with the United States, we on the always communication between Ukraine and between United States. We really appreciate for European Union countries that they actively involved in this communication between our countries, and of course we hope that in the nearest future we will have the situation when we get the ceasefire.
What about winter is coming and energy consumption is going to be soaring? This is the third winter after the war, the fourth winter. Yeah. What is the situation like when it comes to energy consumption and energy procurement now that this is the fourth winter? Is it stabilizing? How are you procuring your energy, especially when it comes to your portfolio of town planning and similar?
Now we have electricity, of course, and just now we don't have such kind of problem. But because of we have a lack of air defense system, and we do not protect a sky, Russia targetedly destroyed our civil infrastructure, including electricity. That is why we understand that if they continue to destroy it in mid of autumn and in the winter, we have huge problems with electricity for civilians, but not only, also for our economical. Yeah.
What about your view on this topic? Same question to Tanya.
Yeah, the thing is that, for example, 2 years ago, the situation was truly dramatic because we had lots of blackouts and we had huge problems with electricity, with power in virtually all cities of Ukraine, including Kyiv, which is the capital of Ukraine. But luckily, our Ministry of Energy, our system, our power grid, we managed to get adapted to this abnormal situation, and we had to be very creative, very ingenious. And last winter, it was pretty much okay in terms of we didn't have many blackouts at that time. But Russia's goal is to break our will to resist, to defend our country.
Even if it means breaking international law, such as targeting civilian infrastructure for propaganda and for war means.
Yeah, absolutely, because I'm as an international lawyer, I can confirm this, that it's to target civilian objects is a war crime. It's a serious war crime. Russia is doing it deliberately. They want to, they themselves are saying that they want to bomb us into caves. And that's what they're doing. That's why we call this war genocidal war. It's colonial war, it's imperialist war, but it's also genocidal. Because when you deliberately destroy conditions for existence for the whole nation, you are committing a genocide, a crime of genocide. But I'm hopeful about our engineers, about our specialists who are dealing with our power grid. And we're ready for the worst case scenario, that again we'll have blackouts, it will be difficult, especially during winter. You can imagine when you don't have much light and you need electricity to cook, for example. I have 2 small children and we had problems with cooking milk, for example, for children. But we're prepared, and the thing is that no matter how hard Putin and Russia is trying to destroy us, it only sort of boosts our morale, our determination to resist, because we know that we're dealing with a pure evil.
We'll take a short break. When we continue on, we'll discuss a little bit more in terms of how we can build better ties with Ukraine. I will be back after these messages.
When the superpowers move, the ground shifts. Power isn't just about might anymore. It's about narratives, networks, negotiation. We go beyond the noise to deliver laser-focused analysis on how power moves and what it means for the world. This is AWANI International, reporting the shifts in power affairs shaping the world.
Ayahku tu patutnya dah lama mati kat tali gantung kat penjara tu, tahu tak? Dia ayah. Tak ada lagi mopok. Cari anak, minta maaf.
Anak-anak learning bila dah besar lah.
Saya anggap ayah ni hero saya. Tapi bila fikir-fikir balik, bodoh punya saya.
Aku sebenarnya ada aja.
Thanks for staying on with us. This is The Economy. We're taping this interview while attending the 46th General Assembly of the ASEAN Inter-Parliamentary Assembly, or AIPA, part of the ASEAN conversations that's going to take place throughout the year. With me are two Member of Parliaments of Ukraine. Alexander, let's talk about the development after the war, what your colleague was mentioning earlier before the break just now. We want to look at economic development. We also want to look at education as part of the main pillars of our collaboration between our two countries. Lest we forget that many of our medical doctors here today were trained in Ukraine. But because of the war, I can confirm that my colleagues at the Ministry of Higher Education has paused sending Malaysian students there. These are the things that we want to look at. Yes, you spoke of the Russians want to break your will, targeting civilian infrastructure and objects, breaking international law and war crimes. While these issues are being resolved and while the war is still happening, there are a lot that can be talked about when it comes to what are the possibilities. Breaking a resolve of the Ukrainian people means to not talk about the dreams and aspirations of your country. What would be the long-term planning that you have that you want to share with the folks here in Malaysia watching this conversation of ours?
Despite difficult situation, despite huge damage done by Russia to our economy, which has exceeded $500 billion and it's growing, unfortunately. But despite all these facts, we remain hopeful when we're talking about rebuilding or reconstruction of our country. We already have held a number of international conferences, and lots of investors have already concrete ideas, concrete projects to help Ukraine. And when we talk about this, and not only talk, when we're doing this, it gives hope for our people, it boosts our morale. It creates very interesting prospects for us. And, you know, despite difficult conditions of war, we have to think about future. And interestingly, we have lots of examples when some countries, they have sort of kind of patronage over a certain region in Ukraine. I can give you two examples. Estonia. One of the regions, Zhytomyrsky region or oblast in Ukraine, Estonians help a lot to develop economy. They are trying to help to build schools, hospitals, and so on. Another example is the city Mykolaiv and Denmark. Denmark helps a lot. They help to do concrete things, for example, to rebuild a hospital or to create something related to purification of water for people living in this city. So we have these examples, and we have more and more such examples.
The thing about diplomacy is that third party members or third actors, state actors, they try to be as neutral as possible, and such is the way diplomacy works. But more and more countries are now taking a side, and it is taking Ukrainians' side. Do you see this as a momentum in terms of how this aggression is going to end and how you can build your country forward? Do you feel that many more countries need to do a little bit more in terms of assisting Ukraine, be it military assistance, economic assistance, human capital assistance, or any sort of idea of how they can lend the support of Ukraine? And do you feel that isolating Russia is the only way forward in terms of making this conflict end as fast as possible?
Yeah, the truth is that we have very clear-cut situation. We have a crime of aggression committed by the aggressor, one state, Russia, against the victim of the aggression, which is Ukraine. And you cannot be neutral before this crime, because when you help the victim, you are acting in line in support of international law. When you support the aggressor by for example, buying Russian oil and gas and feeding thereby Russian war machine, you are acting virtually in violation of international legal order, at least. So that's why it's important to keep in mind this fact. And of course, we want to rely on more support, economic support from different countries, especially from this strategically important region for Ukraine, because Asia plays extremely important geoeconomic, geopolitical role, and this role is growing. And of course, these countries, by helping the victim of the aggression, they can help to bring peace closer.
And actually, I will add about economical development and restoration, reconstruction of Ukraine. We organize a conference lasted in Rome, in Italy, with our allies, and actually who joins this conference, not only, for example, United States or European countries, also some countries from Arab Gulf, for example, Persian Gulf, also invited, and they visit this conference and thinking about how they could develop this cooperation between Ukraine and their countries, and we really appreciate for this support. And I totally agree that one of the topic of cooperation, it could be education. One issue I actually mentioned, this global coalition of Ukrainian studies, but also it's education, which is traditionally actually from your country, from Indonesia, from India, for example, who all the students studied in our medical universities, or for example also in some technical universities, and we could also develop this cooperation between our countries in the future. And also, of course, we are really interested for economical development, because you have a huge economy in Malaysia, and which is absolutely growing up from year to year. That is why we're really interested that after a war we could cooperate more closely. But actually Ukraine do it in a parallel. At one hand, we very actively communicate and involve our allies for the support of Ukraine during a wartime, and another hand, we're thinking about different projects, and Mr. Alexander, he's mentioned about that, what has happened after war is ending.
Yeah, let's talk about that parallel pathway that we can expound on. That building of economy, there's a lot that can be said about Ukrainians, say for instance, technology sector, energy sector. Are these areas going to see a lot of focus when it comes to rebuilding the Ukrainian economy? And if so, how does Malaysia or ASEAN countries can participate more in looking into these two areas of growth?
Actually, for example, IT sphere, which is very actively developed in Ukraine now, and especially Miltech technologies. I know that many countries from this region very interested in our sea drones, which is very unique for...
Sorry, sea drones?
Sea drones, yes.
Like drones in the ocean or
yes,
lakes?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's interesting technology. We use it against Russian Black Sea fleet. And for example, in 2023, when we don't have very high, this counteroffensive operation on the land, but we have a lot of successes in the sea, in Sea of Azov and Black Sea, and we really destroyed half of Russian Black Sea fleet when you use this sea drone in Black Sea or Sea of Azov, and destroyed all the very big ships, military ships of Russia. That is why countries from your region, as we understand, as we know, really interested in these technologies, because it's a future technologies. We are on the very actively develop drone technologies in Ukraine.
I can see the application here in this part of the world because many of our countries are islands and ocean engulfed. So definitely I see, and of course not just military application, but of course civilian and economic applications as well.
Yes, absolutely. That is why it's one of the area where we could cooperate and develop our these ties and cooperation. Medical sphere I mentioned before, and all issue which related to medicines, because it's very actively developed in Malaysia, and we really also interested for that.
What about your view on this matter?
Yeah, I completely agree because, you know, first of all, Ukraine is known as a breadbasket of Europe, and we are one of the biggest producers of agricultural products. So we can feed the whole world, to put it figuratively. And we invite investments. Recently, we have opened our land market, and it became very lucrative, very attractive for investors.
Actually, that was the last part of the conversation that I want to draw. Investments into Ukraine, both public investments as well as private companies and private investments, and where is the trajectory on that?
First of all, of course, we have lots of interest, lots of potential investors. They understand that in conditions of war it might be problematic, but they're prepared to come as soon as there will be peace in Ukraine. And due to the war, we have developed military-industrial complex, like sea drones, like all kinds of drones, and turned out to be that even the United States is interested in buying Ukrainian drones. So we made quite a headway, in difficult conditions because of the war, but, you know, we became one of the leaders in this regard. Ukraine has huge potential, economic potential, and that's why lots of investors are interested in Ukraine. And for example, we can cooperate with Malaysia in terms of microchips. It's another area, because we are talking not only about rebuilding, we are talking about transformation of our economy to make it high-tech, cutting edge, and to use the newest technologies to rebuild our country.
And of course, human capital development is actually quite crucial here, not just in high-tech, high-end technology training, but of course social studies as well, such as international law, war crime, international diplomacy, and the like. That there's a lot that can be used as case study, actual events that are currently ongoing, how this will transpire over the next few years, and the decades later on how we look at generational improvements and generational suffering that has happened over the past few years. This definitely would be a critical factor of our countries to actually collaborate even further, that human capital development. Where do you see Ukraine and Malaysia foster our strength here in this regard?
Well, in all areas, including education, system of education. I, for example, remember that before the full-scale invasion, you could see at our medical schools, at our medical universities, lots of foreign students, many students, for example, from India, and they were interested in this. Ecological tourism, it was extremely popular. People from Saudi Arabia would come gladly to Ukraine, to western part, which is very colorful, very picturesque, very beautiful part. They enjoyed this kind of tourism. So we have tremendous prospects, but first of all, of course, we need peace. And I believe that the fate of humankind depends on Ukraine right now, because it's about creating precedent. It can be very positive or very dangerous precedent. If the aggressor is not punished but rewarded with the territorial concessions, it might destroy the whole security system, including Asia. It's very dangerous for Asia. But if we have positive example, positive precedent, when the violator of international law is not rewarded but punished, then humankind has future, and there will be more peace and more security all over the world.
We saw that, sorry.
Yes, I will add also very important this human-to-human, people-to-people ties. And I remember that during a few years in Ukraine, we organized a very important conference, which is called Rangkaian Global, Understanding Ukraine Through the South, when we invited to Ukraine a lot of different experts from the region, and journalists also. It's more than 40 people from countries of Africa, Asia, Latin America, and from Malaysia, some participants also. And I hope that this year also will participate. And I remember these discussions about international law, about our experience, about, for example, our colonial experience and experience of Asian countries, also colonialist experience and past. And we really understand that we have more issues which is unite us than divided.
Yeah. The next type of conversation I want to ask is on the Russian resolve. Alexander, you were mentioning just now conscriptions from North Korea, from China. What we also understand here in Malaysia is that the conversation that is currently happening in Russia is they're getting the wrong kind of information as well. I'm talking about the Russian population. Where is that situation at right now, and do you see that as a resolving situation soon, or it's going to exacerbate even further the situation inside Russia?
Well, as far as I know, the economic situation in Russia is getting more and more difficult, and the cracks are showing in the economy. They're starting to have such phenomena as stagflation, for example, and their potential is being exhausted by the war. Even though Russia is a big country economically, it used to be powerful, but interestingly, it has already lost its title of great power because they are unable to destroy Ukraine, to subjugate Ukraine. Mm-hmm. So they're not, it's a huge geopolitical shift, by the way. Russia is not a great power anymore. Economically, it will be more and more difficult for Russia, and Putin, this is one of the reasons why he doesn't want to stop the war. Because for him to stop the war means to get rid of this huge distractor for Russian society. Imagine a situation when Russia agrees to peace. It will put in great danger Putin stay in power, because Russian population will immediately start paying more attention to internal economic, social, political problems. And of course, it will create very dangerous situation for Putin. That's why, unfortunately, he's not interested in peace. And that's why, if we want peace, we need to put maximum pressure on Putin. And it can be done by all the countries, including Malaysia, of course. That's why your voice is so important for us. That's why we're talking that you can also contribute to bringing peace to Ukraine by exerting maximum pressure on the aggressor.
Final question would be on your takeaways from attending this conference at the ASEAN Interparliamentary Assembly, or IPA. What would be the one or two things that you're looking forward to attending this conference, and your takeaway, so that we can actually better understand your expectations of this conference? Maybe we can start with Nabilah.
It's not my first time in Malaysia and in region, and for me it's important to develop this cooperation between our countries. You have a brilliant people. It's we see all this empathy when we say that we are from Ukraine, and of course we are really interested for economical cooperation and development in the future. But we understand that even now we could do something for our closer cooperation, for example, in educational sphere.
Alexander?
Yeah, there is a saying that 19th century was a century of Europe, 20th century was a century of America, but 21st century is a century of Asia. So it's also, we can say, the century of ASEAN countries. That's why strategically for us it's an extremely important region. For me, ASEAN and this interparliamentary organization is a kind of platform for communication with the countries which are members of ASEAN, with the countries which have status of observer. So we have lots of bilateral meetings which help us to understand each other, which help us to explain our situation, to attract attention. And we see huge potential in developing relations with the ASEAN countries, first of all with Malaysia, of course.
That's a fantastic way to end the conversation. That just now you just heard Alexander Mareshko. He is the Member of Parliament at Ukraine and of course the Chairman of the Committee of Foreign Affairs. And earlier on you just heard from Tamila Tashiva, the Parliamentary Member of Parliament of Ukraine as well, and the Head of the Subcommittee on the Restoration of the State Authority and Local Self-Government in Ukraine. Please stay on with us at Astro AWANI as we cover a lot more of this conversation moving forward. But for now, I'm Ibrahim Sani, signing off for The Economy.